So every fandom has its toxic fans. If you just look at Star Trek or Star Wars, they're absolutely in evidence. James Bond community for the longest time generally didn't have toxic fans. We were all like pretty cool and supportive about James Bond in whatever form we got. But that's changed to a certain extent, and it's got me wondering, have I become a toxic fan? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Hi guys, it's me, and I haven't made a video for a hot minute. There's a reason for that. You know, somebody asked me the other day, why don't you make videos about the James Bond books anymore? And the honest answer is that maybe I've become a toxic fan. I don't know. The whole idea of a toxic fan is somebody who's like supposedly a fan of some intellectual property, but ends up like being mean and snarky and hating the owners of that brand because of the creative choices they make. And Star Wars is the perfect example of like toxic fandom. So you have the Star Wars movies, everybody loves them. Then you have the sequels that come out. And at the time, the prequels, sorry. And at the time, everyone's like, oh my God, they're so awful. They're not real Star Wars. They're not like the original. And then 20 years later, everyone's going nuts about the prequels. I love the prequels. I took my kid to go and get Kristen Hayden's signature because I loved the prequels so much. And everyone's going on about how much they hate the sequels, you know, like The Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi. And I think they made bad decisions with what they did with some of the characters in the movie, but you know, I was just along for the ride. I'm a Star Wars fan, but I didn't get angry about anything. But there were a lot of Star Wars fans who were like angry. And you go over and look at Marvel, and you know, for the longest time, we loved Marvel. Everything Marvel did was just like chef's kiss. And then suddenly people were like, She-Hulk, what a terrible show, and oh my God, MCU's gone woke and stuff like this, and it was kind of exhausting. Like toxic fans who like hate what they profess to love, are just kind of exhausting. And the sad thing is that they're the people who get the most oxygen in the room. I jump on YouTube and go through the things that get suggested for me, and there's always going to be like some Star Trek fan going on about Star Trek Discovery, and they're like, oh, this isn't real Star Trek, and I can't believe they've got a token lead character who's a girl, except she's got the name of a boy, and she's a Mary Sue, and it's just like, oh my God, it's exhausting. It's really exhausting to deal with people just being negative about something that you love all the time. And yeah, it's it's definitely the same in the James Bond world. Like in the James Bond community, we've normally been pretty good at avoiding like toxic fandom. But I will admit right now, a lot of us Bond fans are kind of getting disgruntled by the fact that it's been years and years and we have no word about the new James Bond film coming out. It's like, we want a new James Bond film. Please, we're like waving our money at you, and we're not getting one. And people have started to be kind of like toxic about it, and you know, make memes about how awful Barbara Broccoli is and stuff like that. And it's I can understand the frustration with that, but at the same time, like Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson from GoldenEye all the way through have made some of the best top tier James Bond films, like Casino Royale and Chef's Kiss. And so like that, it's awkward to like watch people be so hostile towards them when they have done in the past such a good job at giving us exactly what we want. In the world of Ian Fleming publications, I am worried that I'm a toxic fan because they made the decision to censor the James Bond books, and I, you know, tried to lead the charge to say, hey, please don't do this because we hate the idea that just the censorship of Ian Fleming's books is against my values as a writer, as a reader, as somebody who loves literature, as an Ian Fleming fan. I was like, that's a line in the sand. And, you know, I did my best to get a petition going, got 800 signatures, and Ian Fleming Publications just completely ignored the whole thing. And, you know, they're allowed to. They own the rights to James Bond, and they decided that they want to censor the books, and they presumably have their reasons for doing so. And I made another video saying maybe they are absolutely commercially sensible reasons for doing that. But I felt kind of, this is it. This is where I'm a toxic fan, because I kind of personally felt offended that what was important to me, what I was trying to say to them, was just completely ignored. It wasn't like they said, "Hey, we hear you, but we're going to do it anyway." It was just completely ignored. Like they didn't care, and hopefully they did care, or at least they had conversations about it. But to me as a James Bond fan, somebody who's really supported, who's really excited about what Ian Fleming Publications represents as an independent publishing house. Like, I want to root for them, and yet they made a decision that really shows that they have different values to the values that I have. And then they didn't acknowledge that. And I'm just one. It's not like, oh, the world should stop because of me. I mean, Ian Fleming Publications doesn't know who the hell I am. But there were hundreds of us who felt this way. Thousands of us, probably, who felt this way. And they just didn't even acknowledge that. And it's like, that just, to me, it's like Ian Fleming Publications is like, you guys aren't important enough for us to even acknowledge. And to me, that's really what caused the disconnect with me. I was like, okay, I get your message loud and clear. Like, our concerns are not enough. You know, who we are is not important enough to you to even acknowledge. So fair enough. And then I was like, I'll take a pause from being passionate about the James Bond books. And it's kind of unfortunate. About a year ago, I made a video called "Will IFP Stick the Landing?" I was quite salty when I made it because of all the censorship thing. But let's look what Ian Fleming Publications has done in the last year. So, April of 2023, sorry. They released the new editions of all the 14 Bond novels and Thrilling Cities and the Diamond Smugglers. And yeah, I wish I could have been really an excited participant in that. But I wasn't, because of the fact that these books were censored. And I mean, I went through Goldfinger in comparison to what I believe is an uncensored version of Goldfinger and found like no differences. So the censorship issue, they're just like tiny, tiny, tiny changes. But yet to me, it's the principle of the thing. It was the principle of them doing it, getting a reaction from the fans and just ignoring that reaction. I was like, if they could just have made a statement being like, hey, we understand your concerns. We're going to do it anyway. But at least they could say, we understand your concerns. Like, at least they could have acknowledged us, and they didn't. So that's why I was so salty about that. But they did. They released the 14 new edition of the Bond novels and Thrilling Cities and the Diamond Smugglers. The cover for The Spy Who Loved Me, I really liked that one. We went through all the covers, and some of them I wasn't particularly excited about. But The Spy Who Loved Me in particular, the cover for that, I thought was just like, yes, I like that. But back in April, we were like, oh yeah, well, no, a little earlier than that, we were like, oh yeah, this is the big news for Ian Fleming Publications. But no, in May, out of nowhere, they published a brand new James Bond book set in the modern day to coincide with the coronation of King Charles III by Charlie Higson of the Young Bond series. Charlie Higson of The Fast Show, Charlie Higson of his wonderful podcast about the monarchy. He's like, oh, Charlie Higson. And it was remarkable. Like, this is why I'm excited about Ian Fleming Publications being an independent publishing house, because this is what they can do. They were like, hey, we should have a new James Bond book to coincide with the coronation. And someone was like, that's only in 2 months' time. How are we going to do that? And the traditional publishing house, it takes a year for them to get a book out. But they were like, hey, well, I don't know. Let's go through our Rolodex of all these writers. Oh, Charlie Higson. Wonder what Charlie Higson's doing today. Pick up the phone. Oh, wait. I even have a phone specifically for this. Look. Yes. Pick up the phone and go, hey, Charlie, what's going on? Do you want to write a James Bond story for us? And Charlie Higson was presumably like, it's only 2 months away, but I'll do it. I'll do my best. Yeah, I'm in. And then what he did was not write a James Bond story. He wrote a James Bond novel that was like achingly appropriate to the day and age that we're in. to me, I was really excited about it because it dealt with real world issues and his opinion and viewpoint of real world issues. And I think it worked really well for me because Charlie Higson is a middle-aged, middle-class white guy, and I'm a middle-aged, middle-class white guy, both from Britain. So, like, I got it. I really appreciated his perspective. I didn't necessarily, and it felt authentic to me to how James Bond might feel about things because I don't know. So I really enjoyed it. It was a terrific book. Let me go and get my notes a second. I got so excited about my telephone that I dropped these. Yeah, so on His Majesty's Secret Service, amazing thing that Ian Fleming Publications did. And you know what? I'm of the understanding that it hit the #1 spot in the British book charts to #1 bestseller. So, like, you know, I asked last year, will Ian Fleming Publications stick the landing? And they produced a #1 best-selling book. So I would say yes. They could have put down their tools in May and been like, that's good. Yeah, we'll come back next year and do that. But no, they didn't. Then the next thing that I've got on the list of things that Ian Fleming Publications has achieved, they have now, the Crime Writers Association gives out these steel daggers for like the best books. And there is an Ian Fleming steel dagger for Thriller of the Year. And so last year, John Brownlow's book, Agent 17, won the Ian Fleming Steel Dagger for Thriller of the Year. Isn't it cool that Ian Fleming Publications is supporting the crime and thriller writing industry by sponsoring these awards? And like, not only are they doing their own thing, publishing their own books, their own #1 best-selling books, but they're also supporting just the thriller and crime industry as a whole and supporting new writers who are saying things. That's cool. I'm into that. Next, a little later on, they had the paperback of Double or Nothing, Kim Sherwood's first book in a 00 series. And that was quite a triumphant thing. I mean, obviously, the paperback coming out is never quite as exciting as the brand new edition coming out. And I'm going to make another video about Double or Nothing because we've got Kim's second book in the series coming up. And I think it's a book we need to have a real conversation about. But that was another pretty cool thing that they did. Then James Bond Day came along, and what did Ian Fleming Publications do? They announced 3 new James Bond republications from old books in the library. They had Colonel Sun by Kingsley Amis, which was the first continuation novel. Personally, I would have liked it if they'd gone with Robert Markham as the pen name, or Kingsley Amis writing as Robert Markham, because the plan was to have Robert Markham as a fictional writer, and they'd have different authors come in and write different continuation novels. And that never quite followed through, but it was a cool idea. I like that. And Colonel Sun, it's a bloody good book. It's as good as any of the Ian Fleming books. It's I would say, arguably, it's better than a couple of the Ian Fleming books. So it was a terrific read. So that's exciting. And they had new covers, and the covers I thought were really, really good. 0-10 by Raymond Benson. Obviously, you know, I'm a huge fan of Raymond Benson, and one of the most exciting things about doing anything in social media about James Bond is the fact that I've got to interview him. I've got to chat to him. I wrote him some Facebook messages the other day, and he responded. It's like there was this writer who created worlds of James Bond that I got to frolic in as a teenager on my like isolated farm in the middle of nowhere in Cornwall. You know, he offered me an escape, and I got to meditate in his mind, so to speak. And then years later, I would say, I mean, I would say, if I introduce someone, I say, this is my friend Robert, Raymond Benson. They called him Robert. I got confused with Robert Markham there. I'd be like, yeah, this is my friend Raymond Benson. I feel like I could say that. So what an amazing, that excites me. And then to see his book, 0-10, in print with a brand new sexy cover with that nuclear bomb, looks fantastic. That's awesome. And it's an awesome book. I actually listened to the audiobook of it the other day and read it because I was thinking of maybe doing a James Bond book club again, like David Zaritsky did with the original Bond books. But anyway, I digress. But it's a bloody good read. It's a bloody good read. He like knocks it out of the park with those. And I think it's really interesting. I heard there were licensing issues, which is why Ian Fleming Publications didn't republish all the John Gardner books. But personally, if they had had the option to just like ignore the John Gardner books anyway and jump straight into the Raymond Benson ones, they should totally have done that. Like this couldn't have worked out better for them because they immediately jump into republishing good books. Like some of the John Gardner books are a bit weird, and yeah, but all of the Raymond Benson books are just crackers. They're really good. They're fantastic, and they fit into like the Brosnan era of the movies when James Bond was cool again. So yeah, I was super excited to see 0-10 once more in print, and of course James Bond: The Authorized Biography. I was trying to pull out my copy of it. Oh, I have it right here. James Bond: The Authorized Biography. If you haven't read this one, this is a cracker. It was kind of a continuation novel. It was really like, hey, let's have the conceit of James Bond as a real person, and Ian Fleming was like his unauthorized biographer, and Ian Fleming was employed to write novels that about real spy events to kind of discredit them, and it was a really cool idea. I like that, and yeah, that was the authorized biography is a fantastic read, and it's like an alternative universe Bond, but I enjoy that, and that's actually one of the things that I think Ian Fleming publications should lean into, and they are to a certain extent leaning into that. The whole idea of like an alternate world of Bond. Yeah, so 3 fantastic books to republish, and presumably they're going to republish more books in the future. Isn't that cool? I mean, I'll get to have a brand new set of the Raymond Benson books. So there we go. Also, 10-year anniversary of the Ian Fleming publication. Well, the estate of Ian Fleming and their partnership with Dynamite Comics, and they have a brand new James Bond series to mark that 10-year anniversary, and it's being done by Garth Ennis, who is the guy behind the Boys comic book and Preacher comic book. They're like really extreme, violent, out there, edgy comic books, which I think is kind of cool. So that's another thing that Ian Fleming Publications did in the last year. February of this year, what did they do? They released James Bond: The Raymond Benson Years, which is an ebook edition of all 6 of Raymond Benson's James Bond books, and I think that's really interesting from a commercial point of view. That's very sensible. Yeah, there's a really strong commercially viable reason to have these groups of books, and if people read books on their Kindle, this is a wonderful opportunity to get all the Raymond Benson books in one Kindle edition. Fantastic, brilliant. That is again one of the areas in which Ian Fleming Publications, as an independent publishing house, is being much more agile and sharp about taking opportunities like that than traditional publishers do. So, yeah, kudos to them to do so. On June 6th this year, we're going to get the paperback of On His Majesty's Secret Service. They are also releasing the 60th anniversary edition of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It's not. I don't think that many people know that Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which everybody knows that, was actually written by Ian Fleming. So yeah, not a lot of people know that. And for the 60th anniversary, they are producing a brand new edition of it with the original text. I don't think there was much to censor in that. With new illustrations by Thomas Gilbert, who is a wonderful French comic bande dessinée artist. He does great art style. And the cover for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, it looks cool. So there we go, 60th anniversary of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I don't think I own a copy of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, so I might actually buy that. And of course, the other big exciting thing that's coming up is the release of A Spy Like Me, which is the second book in Kim Sherwood's 00 series. And I've seen the covers, and it looks really good. I didn't get an advanced reading copy this time, so maybe I should have kept my trap shut about being so disgruntled with the Ian Fleming censorship thing. But I'm actually genuinely excited about A Spy Like Me coming out. I'm going to make another video about that and the 00 series as a whole. But yeah, Ian Fleming Publications, they've been busy bees this last year, and I haven't really been part of that peripheral world at all. I think before this all kicked off, I was really excited to make videos about what Ian Fleming Publications were doing, and I was really stoked. I was like, universes collide. You've got my passion for like independent publishing and self-publishing. Just I think it's such a powerful tool that could help so many people. And Ian Fleming Publications, they represent that. And the James Bond things, yeah, Ian Fleming Publications, self-publishing, they hit together to create this perfect storm. And I've been kind of sad the fact that this last year I just can't get over it. I'm just so annoyed. And the fact is, I have to think that maybe that makes me a toxic fan. Maybe I'm the one with the problem. Because it's really exciting to go online and Twitter especially and see like David Lowbridge Ellis has become really chummy with Ian Fleming Publications, and I think that's wonderful. David Lowbridge Ellis is such a wonderful bloke, and when he and I have discussed James Bond, like it's something that I think I have a lot of affection for David because I feel like there are things we're on the same wavelength about, and it was James Bond that brought us together, and it was Ian Fleming's way of describing that like outsider feeling that James Bond has that I felt and David felt, and that's one of the magic of books. So I think he is a wonderful, wonderful champion for all of the things that he's involved with Ian Fleming Publications, and Kim Sherwood has obviously just been leading the charge, and she's just magical. I absolutely fangirl for Kim Sherwood as like an ambassador of what James Bond is. And Raymond Benson, of course, you see him popping up everywhere these days, and we're having a Bensonaissance, as they called it, the Brosnaissance, when everyone got back into the Pierce Brosnan films. This is a Bensonaissance, and there's nobody who deserves that more than Raymond Benson. He's such a wonderful, wonderful chap, a wonderful, wonderful, accomplished writer, somebody who, like, yeah, has such wisdom to share. Like, it's really exciting that social media and modern publishing has enabled like fanboys like me to actually interact with people like Raymond Benson and Kim Sherwood. So yeah, it's been kind of sad for me to watch all the exciting, cool things going on over the last year, but it's my own choice. This is it. I'm a toxic fan because Ian Fleming Publications did what they thought they wanted to do, and they didn't feel that the objections that fans like me had about what they were doing was worthy of acknowledgement. And it's me who's retreated from being part of the James Bond literary world, and I feel, and it is, I mean, that's, they can do whatever they want with that. They can make whatever choices they want, and I can either get the fuck over myself and start embracing it a little more, or I can just stay out on the periphery and be a sad old toxic fan going on about, oh, they ruined it, get off my porch, you kids. Like all the Star Trek fans who don't watch Discovery, or the Star Wars fans who go on about how Kathleen Kennedy has killed Star Wars and it's woke now. I mean, yeah, there's a choice. You can either turn your back on the things you love because the people behind them make questionable decisions, or you can get over those questionable decisions and continue to love it. So that's something that I have got to think about as a fan of James Bond. And I think I am. I think I want to make another video specifically about Kim Sherwood's new book coming out, because I think there's a conversation we need to have about the last one that we haven't really. And I'm really excited. And Kim Sherwood is like, she is the James Bond champion at the moment. She's leading the charge, and she's such a wonderful addition to the community that we should cherish her and support her in what she does. And yeah, that's definitely worthy of having a conversation about. Anyway, so there's me. Am I a toxic fan? I don't know. I would love to know your opinion. So if you've made it this far, 24 minutes and 6 seconds in, then drop a comment down below and let me know whether you think I'm a toxic fan and whether you think I should get the fuck over it and dive back into the world of literary James Bond. So let me know, and I will be back with another video very soon. Ciao.